Hey, Simon here from Rotterzwam, and today I'm doing another vodcast with Ivanka Milenkovic about mushroom cultivation. Before I dial Ivanka in, I just wanted to say that we're doing the vodcast and we're recording it here from our farm, so audio quality is a little bit low this time, but that should not influence the content. So let's dive right in. Hello and welcome to another vodcast about mushroom cultivation. I'm joined by Ivanka Milenkovic and my name is Simon. And today we're going to talk about where Trichoderma is coming from and if HEPA filters will save your life. So Trichoderma is one of the most prominent funguses in the world. The spores of the Trichoderma are always around us and they're always waiting to land on a suitable breeding ground to germinate, to grow the little mycelium of the Trichoderma. So all mushroom farmers have experienced different kinds of contamination. But in this podcast, I'm going to talk with Ivanka about where is Trichoderma now coming from and will HEPA filters save your life? But Ivanka, let's begin with the first question. Where is the Trichoderma coming from?
She does not come. She is just here. That's the most honest and clear, and unfortunately, it is a realistic situation. You know, Trichoderma in the kingdom of fungi, globally, all kingdom of fungi, spores had been made, and spores is something what we can see like green when we take a look on moldy cheese or moldy bread or any sort of mold, or corner in our bathroom when we can see something black and similar. That color, in fact, is coming from the color of spores. And spores in the kingdom of fungi is created in order to prevent and save the life of just fungi. So in order to survive, every single variety, every single species of the fungi create the spores. It is the same and with our mushroom. They create the fruit body in order to save their life.
It's for reproduction, that's what you mean, huh?
Yeah. And for reproduction, but much more important for this our story is for saving the life, which means...
How do you mean? Yeah.
That means like this, because when everything is fine, mycelium is growing perfectly. And it is the same and with Trichoderma and with Fusarium and with Phomopsis and all different sorts and species of the fungi. Because mycelium growing is just moment of their satisfaction. You know, everything is available, food, air, fresh air, everything or not, everything is perfect. Once, and under certain conditions, kingdom of fungi or all members of the kingdom multiply and create the next generation only based on the vegetative multiplication, which means you can cut a little piece of the mycelium, and when everything is fine, that little piece of the mycelium and colony can be bring by birds, by insect, by wind, whatever, and just when it's dropped, when everything is fine on the nutrition, on some good substrate, mycelium continue to grow, and that's how fungi can grow forever. However, of course, there is no heaven anywhere, and of course there is no heaven also in the kingdom of fungi. And in order to survive bad conditions, lack of food, low temperature, higher temperature, all what is not perfect during the evolution, fungi uh, uh, arrange, obtain capability to create the spores. Spores, of course, during when they create the spores, during the germination phase, of course, fungi inside of their cells, we have the process of genetic inbreeding, and of course, that creation of spores is connected with a certain physiological process and genetical process, and let's say breeding process. But please, it has to be taken very carefully into that term. Breeding has to be really taking very careful and with a lot of let's say limits. But definitely during the creation of the spores, we have a lot of processes which provide opportunity for the fungi, for the certain varieties to save, to become better, to save the elementary characteristics and everything. But the most important purpose of spores creation is surviving. All those unacceptable and uncomfortable conditions what every single life is faced with. That is the reason. Sometimes those spores are green, sometimes blue, sometimes black, sometimes we cannot see them at all. Sometimes they are light, sometimes they are heavy, but all those spores, including Trichoderma green spores, are covered by one very strong coat which protect nucleus and content of the spores of all outside irregular conditions. So, such a spores in some cases are heavy, cannot fly, in some cases are very light, in some cases are very light, and those spores are flying around, those spores are going all around us, and such spores are coming on in our growing unit, and such spores are coming in our refrigerator and also in our box for the bread and everywhere. So the questions where the trichoderma is coming from, it is, she does not come, she's here.
Okay.
But we can avoid her influence if we provide comparative advantage for the substrate, which will help to our mushroom to grow, and we will not prevent trichoderma to develop if we only think that we will place HEPA filters and protect that spores are coming in.
Okay. Okay. So what is? I always explain it as spores are everywhere around us, and they're falling on all kinds of surfaces. Maybe your computer, your laptop,
Of
or
course.
metal. But then they don't have the suitable breeding ground, and
Yes.
they don't germinate. But if you prepared a lovely meal for them, like coffee grounds or a pasteurized material that is clean, then they can grow there. But it is indeed a sort of biological warfare that you want to give your own mushroom a sort of competitive advantage to the other one. to the Trichoderma. So in our case, so you grow champignon, organic champignon, and organic oyster. We grow oyster, and we want to give our mushroom species a competitive advantage to the Trichoderma. And then because the Trichoderma is everywhere around us, people are always thinking about, oh, I should prepare HEPA filters and put, keep all this mushroom, all these fungus, these spores outside. Um, so where does the HEPA filter, is it going to save your life if you're going to use
No,
this to
no,
keep her out?
no, no. Even worse, you will be sure that you are going some very uh, good steps if you install the HEPA filter, and you will believe that it will save your life. And unfortunately, just I would like just to ask our friends and all our subscriber or whoever is listening this web. Think about that. You have a substrate which is good for our mushroom and which is good for Trichoderma. Definitely. Our mushroom is more spoiled. She likes a little more comfortable conditions. In sense, she needs exactly quantity of humidity inside. She needs exactly pH. She needs much more than Trichoderma.
It's a little bit like women in general.
Yeah, and I consider that like a compliment.
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
well, well. So if you have a substrate where you have such a two organisms, and be aware, dear Simon and dear our colleagues, you cannot avoid that spores of Trichoderma nor any other fungi drop on your substrate, because even let me use this awful situation with this COVID. Our doctors with full equipment, with all those scaphanders, with all those masks and everything, and all those measures and red zones and everything, still could be infected. So please, we are not doctors. We do not fight against COVID, not at all. We have just mobilized our brain and say, listen, I have a substrate, which is perfect, and for my mushroom and for Trichoderma. I have Trichoderma, which is flying in the spore, or like a spores, all around. And I have in my substrate, I am placing mycelium. Spawn is mycelium. It is already vegetative phase. So if in one material you put already ready mycelium ready to grow, and spore, which need at least 24 hours to start to germinate and then to start to develop and start. For the first 48 hours, your mycelium already is running 8 millimeters per day. So it means that already 16 millimeters mycelium had covered the substrate. For that time, this spore of Trichoderma even just start to germinate. So if we made the substrate, which is good, if we properly spawn the material with adequate spawning rate, and if the mycelium is good, for that first 48 hours, we have such a fantastic comparative advantage of our mushroom in compare with Trichoderma, that our Trichoderma is absolutely loser.
Mm.
I cannot say that she will give up. I cannot say that. But advantage what our mushroom already has is so good the trichoderma has nothing to do there in that substrate. So with HEPA filter or without HEPA filter, you have to do the same thing. And HEPA filter is only fantastic excuse that you say, oh, I had done everything. And in fact, you hadn't done a lot. It is the first. And second, HEPA filter is additional investment in all our business. Every single investment, which is not necessary, is really, really stupid. Excuse me to use that word, but it is really, it's not a recommendation. So in order to avoid contamination, first, what you have to take a look is just what we always say, your raw material must be clean. Because if on your coffee waste or straw or whatever, you already have a colony of trichoderma, then this comparative advantage, what you are giving to our mushroom with the good spawning, doesn't work.
Yeah. And you mentioned the 8 millimeters of growth per day, yeah? Just before we go into the raw material. So I once heard a tip from a mushroom farmer, and we're implementing that now, is that if we do the day that we have production, for example, on a Wednesday, we take the spawn out of the refrigerator the day before. Yeah. So that it starts to warm up and grow already. Is that a little bit in line with that 8 millimeter growth per day?
Yeah. And if you remember, we were talking about long time ago, I think, when you had been here last time. I think that is also very good because you just need to encourage you have to have mycelium really in full, that start to grow in full capacity through the substrate.
Okay, yeah, so that's another tip also.
But excuse me, Simon, just to come back on our subject today. First of all, we with HEPA filter, of course, that we can help us, but with HEPA filter, much more we will help us to avoid that mosquitoes, mites, and everything is coming in than spores of fungi. That is the first. Second, Trichoderma, which is in our surrounding, must not, if we have Trichoderma on the substrate, then it's nothing. I will be very honest. We had a serious problem this year because the last year was very, very bad. The raw material was wet during the harvesting season because we collect the wheat, and we had a very weak results this year with the oyster production and with champignon as well. But with champignon, it's going on different way. So I don't say that, and it is not only problem of us, it is general problem in the mushroom world.
Okay, yeah. So really the problem is with the raw material, and you need, so there it's also important to know where your raw material is coming from, how it's been harvested, how the weather conditions were, and that is something that you need to discuss with your supplier. Yeah. And when we had the Corona breakout and the lockdowns, and everybody was working from home, we stopped collecting coffee for a little while, and then we decided, okay, let's try straw, and we had some good results, but the second batch of straw that we made, it was all completely green and terrible results because we were purchasing this straw from a company that is producing feedstock for animals, so it has a completely different focus. And it was not really working for us, so we had to abandon that. And that was when we called also, when we called and we had a conversation, and then you mentioned that even somebody you work with was in the university under high pressure, sterilizing wood dust and still having contamination.
Still.
How is that possible? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Because just to come back on the beginning of our conversation, because by evolution, spores are created in order to survive. You need to know that the first organized pioneers or pioneers who are coming after the fire or after the some nuclear attack or whatever are fungi. Why? Because even such a awful and difficult conditions, spores can survive. On the other side, I cannot say that we have in the sort of the material what we use, like a straw, like sawdust, like wooden chips, like coffee waste, like all such a sort. You have a lot of microscopes size holes and pockets where spores can go in, and it is nobody on this world cannot ensure that the same high pressure and high temperature will be acquired in every single micro spot inside of the material.
Mm.
So it is quite enough that you have one pocket anywhere on the material, what of course you cannot see with naked eye, but just anywhere in the corner where temperature was not high enough and where pressure was not high enough, and in such a pocket, mycelium or spores could survive.
Mm. Yeah.
And that is very, very important that that all of us understand that we do not sterilize or pasteurize just glasses or laboratory tools or vessels or whatever.
Mhm.
Our material is full of microscopic hole where spores can drop in.
Mm. Okay. All right. Yeah, very interesting conversation. Always focus on the raw materials, and it's definitely not HEPA filters that is going to save your life, or your mushroom substrate production in that case.
No, and even when we are talking about that very often I don't say, sometimes all of us are disappointed, and we lost the self confidence, and the most worst thing start when your workers. That's I'm sharing now my experience when your workers start to run through the internet and looking for the solution because they see that something is going wrong. And can you imagine how my feeling in that moment? That is a really, really, really. But on the other side, I appreciate that because it means that they are thinking and wondering about the job. But on the other side, I unfortunately have to disappoint them, and it is for me also very difficult to say that good quality of the raw material is the basement, is a foundation of the successful mushroom business, not only for the small mushroom producer like we are, but also for the huge, huge and big, big mushroom producer, what we can see in mushroom industry globally.
Okay.
So
Excellent. With these words, I think we're going to end our little conversation, this vodcast about where the trichoderma is coming from and if HEPA filter can save your life. No, it can't. And she's not coming anywhere. She is here, as you just mentioned eloquently in the beginning. Thank you, Ivanka, for sharing the
thank
insights
you.
again of over 20 years of mushroom science. Ivanka and I are going to continue the conversation, as always, in the Mushroom Learning Network community platform. You can find the link below this video. It's a place where we can collaborate, where we can convene, where we share earning models, but also questions about substrate production, harvest problems, all kinds of challenges that face us as small urban mushroom farmers. So you can join for just €1 per week, 52 euros per year, and get a lot of extras. So we hope to see you there or otherwise in our next vodcast.
Thank you. Thank you. For me, it is always great pleasure. And I expect that with the next period of time, I will also learn a lot from you.
Excellent. It has always been an exchange, Ivanka.
Yeah, yeah. Ciao, all the best.
Bye.